Welcome back. Thanks very much for staying with us. You're watching WION World is One with me, Raisha Selgan. And this is Speed News. We get the latest from all across the globe in just a matter of 30 minutes. And I'm also being joined by interpreter Miss Rajni. Let's get you started. An Israeli airstrike in South Lebanon has killed a Hezbollah militant along with two of his relatives. The border between Lebanon and Israel has been escalating exchanges of fire, mainly between the Israeli army and Hezbollah. Since the Israel-Hamas war began, more than 150 people have been killed on the Lebanese side since the cross-border hostilities began. Most of them are Hezbollah combatants. However, 2 civilians have also lost their lives due to the war. Over on the Israeli side, at least 4 civilians and 9 soldiers have been killed. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has compared Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to Hitler, saying that Israel's assault on Gaza to Nazi Germany's killing of Jews. Erdogan asked what difference was there between Netanyahu and Hitler. He made the remarks at an awards ceremony. Erdogan has massively stepped up his criticism of Israel during the ongoing Israel-Hamas war. He's also asserted that Hamas is not a terrorist organization. Netanyahu fired back, slamming Erdogan's treatment of Turkey's large Kurdish minority. He also accused Erdogan of holding the world record for imprisoning journalists who opposed his regime, and added that the Israel Defense Forces are the most moral army in the world. Meanwhile, pro-Palestinian demonstrators briefly blocked roads to airports in New York and Los Angeles, forcing some travelers to make the journey on foot. The U.S. police have arrested a combined total of more than 50 people between both the locations. In Los Angeles, authorities declared an unlawful assembly Wednesday morning when a group of demonstrators blocked traffic outside the entrance of the Los Angeles airport. No flights were disrupted by the protest, although several passengers abandoned their rides in a desperate attempt to reach their terminals in time. Meanwhile, New York's JFK witnessed a similar sight. Port Authority police officers arrested 26 demonstrators who blocked traffic near JFK. Since the Israel-Hamas war erupted, demonstrations have broken out in cities across the U.S. The U.S. government has announced a $250 million Ukraine military aid package, which it says is the last remaining package of weapons available for Ukraine under existing authorization. The Congress now needs to decide whether to keep supporting Kyiv's battle against the Russian invasion. The State Department said that the final tranche of aid amounts to $250 million and includes air defense munitions, other air defense system components, additional ammunition for high-mobility artillery rocket systems, 155mm and 105mm artillery ammunition, anti-armor munitions, and over 15 million rounds of ammunition. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Mexico on Wednesday in a bid to control the surging migration. Blinken held talks with the Mexican president as growing migration causes chaos on their shared border. The high-level talks tabled as the 2024 presidential polls loom over the U.S. President Joe Biden's head. Wednesday's meeting was followed by a phone call between the two presidents over the need to address border security issues. The trip comes as the Republican Party has called on President Joe Biden to crack down on the migration numbers. The Republicans have made the demand as a prerequisite to vote in favor of one of the key priorities of the White House. Vladimir Putin has invited Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Russia next year, saying that it would give them an opportunity to discuss all current issues and also talk about the outlook for the bilateral ties between both the countries. The Russian president hailed the growth in trade turnover with India as he met with New Delhi's foreign minister on Wednesday. Speaking during the meeting with S. Jaishankar in Moscow, Putin said that the growth in the volume of trade between the two nations over the last 9 months had already exceeded the entire growth of last year. The Indian Foreign Minister also highlighted the progress in trade, stating turnover had exceeded $50 billion. During the talks, Putin also said that he would inform India's top diplomat about the situation in Ukraine as well. "25 Indian passengers seeking asylum in France have been freed. This after their flight from the UAE was grounded last week. The prosecutors have ordered their release on formal grounds. As per the attorneys, border police had not referred the case to the judge within the legal time frame. Among the 25 passengers, 5 minors were taken into child welfare services. These 25 people were among 303 passengers who boarded a plane operated by Romanian company Legend Airlines in Dubai. Reports say that the French authorities will continue to probe the case for violation of immigration laws, but not for human trafficking concerns. Former US President Donald Trump has emerged victorious in his battle against challenges to his eligibility for a White House run. Michigan's top court has rejected an attempt seeking to disqualify him from the state's presidential polls. The Michigan Supreme Court has declined an appeal from 4 voters who sought to bar Trump ahead of state's February 27th primary elections. They argued that Trump, who is the front-runner for the 2024 Republican nomination, cannot serve as the president under a constitutional provision. The said provision prohibits individuals from holding office if they have engaged in any insurrection or rebellion after swearing an oath to the United States of America. Iran's state media said that Russia and Iran have finalized an agreement to trade in their local currencies instead of the US dollar. Central bank governors of both the countries finalized the agreement. Earlier this week, the members of the Russia-led Eurasian Economic Union signed a free trade agreement with Iran. Both Iran and Russia are subjected to massive US sanctions. Iran has become increasingly important for the Kremlin in the wake of Moscow's war in Ukraine. The war has limited Russia's foreign trade routes and forced it to look for markets outside Europe. Russian textbooks are taking an alternate view on Donald Trump's election loss in 2020. Moscow textbooks claim that the former US president lost the election due to alleged voter fraud by the Democrats. Images on the history textbook reportedly taught to the 11th grade students are circulating on social media platforms. The textbook includes a picture of Joe Biden wearing a mask. It alleges that his entire political career has been accompanied by corruption scandals. The textbook also claims that President Biden has commercial interest in Ukraine. Twelve people were killed and 14 sustained severe burn injuries in a fire collision between a bus and a dumper truck in India's Madhya Pradesh. The private bus with 30 passengers was on its way to Guna. The collision ignited a fire on the national highway. Local residents helped the state disaster response team to take the injured to the hospital. Police in the Democratic Republic of Congo's capital, Kinshasa, prevented demonstrators from staging a march as early results from the country's presidential polls show that the incumbent leader with a large lead. Leading opposition politicians, they called for the protest after rejecting last week's vote, which was marred by severe delays and bureaucratic disarray. The opposition leaders urged supporters to gather near the National Assembly and march to the headquarters of the country's Electoral Commission. Dozens of riot police were stationed in the area, preventing demonstrations to take place. The officers fired canisters of tear gas at the supporters of opposition, while the crowd hurled rocks at the police. The Pakistani Army conducted a successful test flight of an indigenously manufactured multi-launch rocket system. The Army's media wing said that the Fatah 2 is fitted with cutting-edge, a sophisticated navigation system and a unique flight trajectory. The weapon system is reportedly capable of engaging targets with high precision up to a range of 400 kilometers. Senior officers from 3 armed services witnessed the flight test. President Arif Alvi and senior military officials congratulated the troops and scientists on the flight test. Thousands of Argentines took to the streets in Buenos Aires to protest against the sweeping economic reforms and deregulations proposed by the newly elected president. Demonstrators demanded the court intervention to invalidate the reforms that they say will take away worker and consumer protection. The country's parliament is holding an extraordinary session to consider Milei's plan. The decree will change or scrap over 350 economic regulations in a country accustomed to heavy government intervention in the market. Many civic groups have filed a judicial motion to have the decree declared unconstitutional. In other news, Nigeria's vice president visited a camp for displaced people in a northern Plateau state and spoke to the survivors of the recent violence in the area. The death toll has climbed to almost 200. Armed groups launched attacks between Saturday evening and Tuesday morning in Plateau state, a region plagued for several years by religious and ethnic tensions. The assailants targeted 17 communities during the attacks on Saturday and Sunday, during which most houses in the areas were burned. Local residents said that the security agencies took over 12 hours to respond to their call for help. An intense cold wave continues to grip several parts of North India. Visibility in the national capital region was considered better on Thursday in comparison to Wednesday. The thick fog left cities, towns and villages in the Indo-Gangetic plains virtually blinded. In the capital city, New Delhi, a sharp rise in pollution was seen once again as the average air quality index in the city reached 386. This falls in the hazardous category. On the other hand, Delhi airport continues to face delays due to this dense fog. Approximately 134 flights for domestic and international face delays. A new lighting display pattern for the Times Square New Year's Eve ball has been unveiled just days before the iconic celebration. This year's design features a bow tie pattern. It is a tribute to the time when the Times Square used to be known as the bow tie. The New Year's eyeball is a sphere 12 feet in diameter and weighs over 11,000 pounds. The ball is covered with over 2,000 crystal triangles that vary in size. Singapore households are bracing for a sales tax hike that takes effect in the new year as the government shows up ahead of an expected surge in social spending in the rapidly aging city-state in the years ahead. The goods and services tax, which is imposed on everything from food to diamond rings will be increased by 1 percentage point to 9% on Monday, the second phase of a two-stage rate hike. And this year, the sales tax was raised to 8% from the previous 7%, which had been unchanged for 15 years. It is estimated that a quarter of the population will be 65 and older by 2030. More trouble for Credit Suisse. The Monetary Authority of Singapore has imposed a civil penalty of $3.9 million on Credit Suisse for the bank's failure to prevent or detect misconduct by its relationship managers. Now, the managers in the bank's Singapore branch had provided clients with inaccurate or incomplete post-trade disclosures, resulting in clients being charged spreads which were above bilaterally agreed rates for 39 over-the-counter bond transactions. The US dollar slipped to a 5-month low against the euro and a basket of currencies on expectations that the Federal Reserve could soon cut US interest rates. But with many traders out for holidays, the volumes are likely to remain muted until the new year. Experts suggest the current price moves are exaggerated by low liquidity. The dollar index, which measures the US currency against 6 others, fell to 100, the lowest since July 27. The index is on course for a 2.45% drop in 2023 after 2 years of strong gains driven by the anticipation of the rate hikes by the Fed, followed by its actual rate increases to battle inflation.